Welcome to Living with Intuition Coffee Chats, your source of real perspectives, insight, and humor from down-to-earth, kick-ass intuitives. Join Lindsay from Super Secret Powers and Andrea from A Soul's Journey with Andrea as we delve into today's coffee chat. Oh, so it is a gorgeous day in Pennsylvania. Here is like in the 70s probably.
I know. It's wonderful. The sun's out and we got some vitamin D. And
yeah.
We really needed the vitamin D.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even yesterday it was a really nice day. So we're like, I feel like I feel a little better. I feel like I'm like,
It does. It makes you feel a little bit more alive and
finally get to be like me again in a sense. And not just like I've been stuck in this house for 4 months. Let's pull this over so we can hear both of us. So welcome to the Living with Intuition coffee chats. I have my coffee, of course, and it's chocolate coffee today.
Yes. Our little Valentine's Day.
So I am very much looking forward to going out for coffee, real coffee with Andrea on Friday.
I know. I'm so happy she comes with me. It's been like wonderful the past couple weeks. If I'm in the area, and we're making our rounds, and it's like I just like people watching and like just like the different vibes, different places hold, and the different brews.
And just being someplace like just not your house. Or there's other like real people and you're not just like kind of tuned out on that level where you're just like, I have to work, so I have to ignore like all the people in the house kind of thing. Makes you feel like you're alive. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And an announcement for me is that I will not, I might be with you next week. It's it's always kind of up there because I will be in Bermuda. I will be on Norwegian getaway and going to Bermuda. My dad got a wild hair up his butt and like he booked it last week and like
it's like
2
so
weeks
soon.
to think about it and pack, and I'm just like, I give up. I give up. I think today, after I get offline, because I'm probably going to do another live with the Order of Centaur after this at 7:45. So after that, I'm probably just going to start packing or take everything out of the suitcase that I have like just thrown in there after it came out of the laundry, and
because you're always kind of
now
packed.
Fold it.
She goes on enough cruises that some things are always kind of packed. She's just gotta like do the laundry and refill things, and
but I know I want to do more videos with this. I don't know if I'll release them exactly when I'm on the ship, because I kind of want to make this week a kind of just I'm not going to say a reinvention week, because if like I can focus on that, I can intend for that to happen, but like I don't want to put limits on that or expectations or pressure. Really coming into widowhood and what's going to be like my next chapter. I really want to use this time away to just kind of sink into that reality a little bit more and really start coming into the claiming portion as much as I can. I mean, Rob just came home today.
Yes.
We just received all the things back today. And so like, it's that wave stuff, and I don't want to underestimate that as I try and move forward. I'm trying to be conscious of my own grief process and my own feels and leave room for that. But I'm in a position now coming into this new life, and this is like almost exactly why I wanted to talk about this.
Yes.
You're of moving forward even when you're afraid, with intuitive guidance or with this a big step that you have to kind of make and lean into, that maybe like you have some strong feelings on, but you're not entirely sure like what the logistics of it look like yet. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how supporting the house is going to look and turn out to be a couple months from now. I just know I have to invest myself in the process. But like, I think we get caught up in the fear.
Yes.
We
lately,
get so caught up in the fear.
It's been like really hard to move through fear lately.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think there's a lot of big things coming, and I think we're releasing a lot. And I really think that's like, what the process really is, but it comes out as fear, based,
all the Pluto and Uranus stuff in 2024, all those little minor transits just keep happening. They don't help either because they're always pulling shadow out. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
No, it's
not. And it's something I had to really lean into, like this past week. It was just like, it's coming to my attention because it's still something that's coming from my subconscious, and it's not something that I am being in my own awareness with.
Right.
So like, it has to come forward in that way, in some way, so that it then becomes a more conscious part of my living. And like I said, like I feel like I don't want to put any, for me, myself. I mean, if you have the strong niggle that where you want to go, and like you have to get to a particular place, because that's where you want to go. That's, you just like, when that's fine. And that's a beautiful place to be. It's just for me, it's just like, I feel like I want to throw out a lot of boundaries that I used to have, a lot of, I don't even have a word for that. It's not really a boundary, and it's not fully an expectation, but it's like this container in which I lived my married life might look very different from the container at which I get to live the rest of my life.
And there's a lot of scrutinizing that line in between that we have to cross over, because I did this with divorce. It's like, you know the way you lived, and you're so caught up in that. I mean, I was 20 years, you were like 17, right? Like, 18.
I think this year was going to be 18.
So, I mean, all those years of doing things with a person a certain kind of way, the give and take that, and when it's kind of removed from the picture, you have to figure out what parts of that to keep and what parts to bridge a new future for yourself with. And I think it's hard to let go of some of the old stuff, and you have to work through that part too. And I mean, I grieved that it was the end of a relationship, so I had to grieve while I did that also. It's a little different. I know he's still alive and doing well, but you know what I mean? But still, on the basic level, it's the same kind of fears, and like you procrastinate with things. And well, at least I'm a procrastinator, and I know I am. I get caught up in that fear, and it kind of freezes me until I can work through whatever it is that's holding me back. And that's just the way I work. And, I don't judge it. Sometimes you need outside voices to tell you certain things. Sometimes, you'll get the downloads that'll help you. And sometimes it's just working through life in general and just trying, I think you find your way no matter what. But we're a little bit more conscious about the way we do it.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And it's just the way that I've worked for a long time. And I don't know if anybody actually relates to this or not, but I'm putting it out there because it's really like my authentic process. But I do this thing where I cast out, like, it's just like I cast open all the doors. It's like, all right. Then let's see. And I start this very intentional seeking journey. And it's like, it can go far and wide, but it doesn't necessarily have to. But it's just the way, like, I use like my psychic radar pingy thing, where it's just like, all right, there's something juicy here. it kind of relates to this thing over here, but I don't know if I really want that fully. And and then I take this like multi-pronged approach to come up with something that really suits me for what I'm doing and what I'm feeling, and that new alignment that I'm seeking. Because that's the part of it, is when you're up in your head and you're like, well, I don't know how that's ever going to work, or I don't know how I'd make the business work fast enough to replace my income. You don't know until you try, and sometimes you don't know until you're in the situation where it has to happen. Because sometimes we just have to learn these things in body, and not in mind, and not solely in mind, let's say. So you really have to take that step back in order to find the space to be embodied, so that you aren't caught up in all of that head fear. Because the head fear, for one thing, is going to tell you that it's all happening at once. That all of that change has to happen, bam, and it has to happen perfectly, or else it's all going to fall apart and you're going to die. Or worse than that, you're going to have to live through hell before you die, before you hit rock bottom. And that is just so overwhelming. And it's always going to be so scary to brain, because brain is it's the thing that's, going to try and keep you alive. But it doesn't know the whole story.
That's why I journal. That's why I get it all down on paper. And I used to be the kind of person that had to be positive 24/7, and I wasn't allowed to feel that. I wasn't allowed to say that stuff out loud. But now it's I'm not judging myself anymore. I write it down. Whatever comes out of me, I write it down. The good, the bad, the ugly. Because once I get those fears down on paper, somehow the perception changes enough that you can start thinking clearly again. And that's what, and sometimes I just need something to trigger me, or, something else I've looked at or read or something will trigger me. But when I ask for help from my guides and from source, usually it comes in forms of human interaction, or what I'm going to read, what I'm going to write down myself and go, and then the wheels start turning again. And as long as those wheels turn, I feel like I'm making progress. It's when everything halts and you go, and you're in that mode where, oh God, the sky is falling kind of mode. And we all do it. We're human, and that's part of the human aspect of us. But when you can start realizing you're doing it and, get out of it sooner, that awareness is gold. I mean, that's everything to me. I mean, the more aware I am of myself.
It was true.
But I'm not perfect, and nobody is. And sometimes you do need somebody else or something else to come in and intervene and just snap out of it,
But sometimes I even have to trick myself in order to start something, by saying that no matter how excited or worked up, and I know that's, then I know it's something I want. Then I know it's something I want. Even if I'm afraid of it, even if I don't know how I'm going to get there, even if I don't feel like I'm in the best situation to begin, I kind of have to trick myself. So I say, I sit there and I say, and I know at this point, because I know how I work, that I'm just all right, well, let's look at the practicalities of this first. And I don't mean let's listen to the inner critic. I mean, let's look at how this actually foundationally, practically works in real life for other people. Let's do that kind of nitty gritty. Let's answer some of the questions and concerns I already have. Let me see if I can try on this energy a little bit first, to see if that's even anywhere near where I think it's going to be. Because I am a person who will, I'm Leo rising and an Aries sun sign. So I am ideas and inspiration, and I want to believe delude myself that just because I'm making a really cool decision, it means that it's going to take care of all of my problems. But see, that's like that other end of the brain where it's like, oh my God, the brain is saying it's not going to work. And the soul is saying it'll solve everything. When really the answer is always somewhere in the middle. So I kind of have to trick myself and go that middle road and saying like, all right, well, of course, there's going to be pros and cons to everything. But all right, I can kind of see how that might work, even if I don't, like, jump in this week full board. Because maybe I have to start clearing up some stuff in my immediate environment first in order to have the energy to consider going full board. It's finding those ways to say like, well, how could my energy fit this? How could it be possible?
Right.
And I always let that curiosity go, as long as it's not the crazy curiosity of like, this is going to solve all of my problems. Because every choice is going to have its pros and cons.
and I'm like this big balloon that's floating up in the air. And if I don't put the weight on and bring myself down with all that fairy energy I carry around, I go there. It's like, oh my God, this is going to be so great and it's going to be perfect and everything's going to work out just the way I planned it to be and everything. And then when it doesn't, I'm like, those expectations are what I work with every single day because I somehow drawn to that expectation thing. And it's like, I go between either procrastinating or jumping the gun. And if I don't try to stay in that middle ground and say, well, it could go either way, but let's just stay here for a moment and see. It's hard for me. It's an everyday battle with me not to just exude that excitement and happiness that everything's going to be hunky-dory, because it's just the way I'm kind of like built. It's like I automatically go towards the more positive result, even though I have to kind of work to get there more.
But that is authentic. So it's not that I ever try and like exactly pull back from it, but I tend to pull it a little deeper down in my body the older I get now. And I'm just like, so it's just like, all right, like, well, then how can I turn this spark into something that isn't going to burn out in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
That isn't going to burn out the minute I get my first no, or whatever the situation is. And allowing that slower burning, beautiful energy of, I can feel the excitement and I can feel the ripples going back and forth through time, and this is where I want to be, and of making it a lifelong journey instead of I have to have this tomorrow.
and all
because
the little
it feels
wins.
So good because you don't believe you're going to have it, and that that's it. That's the other.
And I try to celebrate all the little wins so that I can like keep track of the way that I'm going, because sometimes you feel like you're not moving or you're not moving fast enough, but you really have been making lots of progress.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize it because you're not where you want to be. And that's,
it's not a race.
No.
And I think we trick ourselves into thinking it should be a race.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't want the reward at the end? But then you're chasing the reward and you're not living the journey.
Right.
And if you don't live the journey, you're not going to have the right roots.
Exactly.
In order to pull that nourishment back up and to keep this thing alive. Right. And this is all like also phrased in, this is change that you want to see happen. Right. I mean, so if you're in that place where like, something has to change and it's not something you want to see happen, your first step is always in getting curious in how could that actually be the door to the thing I actually want.
Right.
Or, and nobody says that, not even spirit says that choice that you're afraid of absolutely has to be made. but in that moment when you're afraid and it's actual guidance, and you're looking at that worst fear going like, I don't know, this looks awfully like this. Like, how do I get around this? Spirit's actually just kind of asking you not to get around it.
Right.
And to look at the real life implications of it. Like, what would it take for you to make that decision right now? Not make this decision right now.
Exactly.
But yeah, like almost to prepare yourself in case it's an option. So that you are then in your power and you're not all shocked and like, you know.
And you're actually ready for it. And it's the perfect timing, that divine timing.
If it comes to that.
Right.
Right.
Because you don't want to get something too fast and not be ready for it and have it go poof.
Well, I'm even thinking of things like divorce. In that sense,
yeah,
of choices you don't necessarily want to make, but might find yourself having to make, or at least having to consider.
Right.
Being open to that consideration is also going to bring you a lot of emotional clarity as to, you know, where your alignment is in this situation and what you're really working toward.
And when the time is really right, it's going to happen.
Or not.
Or not. I mean, yeah.
Or
because,
things will fall into
exactly.
a more...
It lines up either way.
Because you're seeking your alignment in this. And it's not something that's going to happen to you. It has to happen, you know, with you, for you, because of you. So why is this a because of you situation? And it might not be like all about you. You just might be a small part of it. But once you see your way clear, and that's the other thing, because like these pivotal moments where we make these choices, you know, it almost always ends up being like 10 years down the line, and you're like, I was so scared to make that choice, and I don't know why.
How it turned out. Like,
my worst fear wasn't really the worst thing that could have happened, or it didn't turn out that way, or because I learned to respect what was happening in that moment.
Right.
My perception shifted, and it became the biggest blessing. You know, I always feared that something, you know, and it's a parent thing, something would happen to your daughter. And something did happen to my daughter. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's wonderful, you know, but to live through that and then live through the healing journey behind it was something that pulled us closer, was something that, you know, gave both of us a confidence that we can then rely on ourselves that either we took for granted before, or we weren't in touch with it before just because of, you know, we're all caught up in regular living and school dramas and, you know, just, you know, your homework. She goes and locks herself in the bathroom. So, you know, give us a 1 if you are totally feeling this and hearing this and feeling a little movement now behind your own intuitions and where you want to take them next. But yeah, so I'm going to start having to pack soon, and we have to eat before the next live. But feel free to hop on over to the Order of Centaur page. I'll probably put the link for that in there. So you'll see us again. And I am also dropping the link for my wait list for the Mystik Web Society, which is for spiritual entrepreneurs who need to get serious about figuring the tech out that's going to support their business and their profits. So that, you know, like, don't be the don't be the spiritual entrepreneur who can't work their phone or doesn't know how to figure out a life, because this is your business, and if who's going to stand for it if you can't? And who's going to stand for the money on the table that you're leaving because you don't want to, you haven't yet figured out how to make all like the techie stuff work. Now, the Mystik Web Society is focused on, building websites first. So we get that clarity piece really down. And you get yourself a website that's going to start serving you and support your business and support your profits. But there's a lot more tech. There's a lot more tech out there. We're going to go over a little bit of AI and definitely some branding so that you have that kind of business clarity about how everything needs to be structured, and you flip the script on who needs to, or on how you need to start speaking so that you can really show people what you can do for them and what they get for working with you and the value in that, because you need it. You deserve it. And I think every light worker, every healer, every reader out there, needs to have this kind of support. So just what I'm dropping here is just a wait list. So that's absolutely free. So jump on the wait list if you want to know more about this. And we'll probably see you in some pictures, at least on Friday. And I don't know. I'm still I want to cook something up for when I'm away in Bermuda. So hopefully, you'll stay tuned for that stuff too. All right. Have a good evening.
Love you guys.
Brightest blessings.